In the world of football, we are obsessed with forward progress. Every yard is a battle. But have you ever heard of a player who, statistically speaking, simply refused to go backward? I don't mean rarely went backward. I mean, over the course of an entire collegiate career, the concept of negative yardage just didn't exist for him.
It sounds like a myth, doesn't it? Like one of those tall tales from the 1,920 seconds. But we are actually talking about a very modern, very real figure. And the reason we are bringing this up today is that his career has just completed a massive cinematic full circle.
Exactly. We are talking about Everette Sands. As of January 1st, 2026, he is officially back in his hometown of Conway, named the new running backs coach for Coastal Carolina University. It's a homecoming, sure, but when you dig into his resume, it feels more like the return of a master strategist.
Master strategist is the perfect way to put it. You mentioned that stat earlier, and I think we need to let that sink in for the listeners before we move on. Sands played at the Citadel from 1,989 to 1,992. He was a fullback in the wishbone offense. He carried the ball 741 times.
741 times. And how many times was he tackled for a loss?
0. Not once.
That is absolutely insane. I mean, think about the chaos of a football line of scrimmage. Someone misses a block, a linebacker shoots a gap, the turf is slippery. Statistically, you should trip over your own feet at least once in 4 years. How do you explain that? Is it just brute strength?
It's physics. And honestly, it's geometry. Sands didn't just run. He calculated. He graduated with a degree in computer science in 1993, and I don't think that's a coincidence. If you watch the tape from that era, specifically that famous 1,990 upset over South Carolina, he runs with an algorithmic efficiency. He's always falling forward, always understanding the leverage. He's not just hitting a hole, he's solving a puzzle in real time.
That computer science background is fascinating. Usually when we talk about football guys, we talk about grit and instinct. But Sands was literally teaching algebra and computer science while he was starting his coaching career.
Right. This was back in 1995 at Sea Island Academy. He was the youngest head coach in the history of South Carolina high school football. Imagine that you're a teenager, and your head coach is barely older than you, teaching you coding in the morning and the wishbone option in the afternoon.
It speaks to a certain pedagogical versatility, doesn't it? I feel like modern coaching often lacks that. We see guys who are great recruiters but can't teach the mechanics, or guys who are technicians but can't relate to the players. Sands seems to have built his foundation on being an educator first.
Absolutely. And look at his time at Elon College in the late 90 seconds. He wasn't just the running backs coach. He was the head strength and conditioning coach for the entire athletic department, and he was an academic advisor. He was managing the physical output and the intellectual input of these athletes simultaneously. That creates a very different kind of bond with a player. You aren't just the guy yelling at them to run faster. You're the guy helping them pass calculus and get stronger in the weight room.
It's a holistic approach, and it clearly worked when he jumped to the FBS level. I remember his time at Ohio University in the early 2000s. They weren't exactly a powerhouse, but his rushing offense was ranked 9th in the nation.
That was the proof of concept. People thought, oh, he's a Citadel guy. He's a wishbone guy. That won't work in a modern spread or pro-style system. But at Ohio, he proved that vision, leverage, and that 0 negative yards mentality translate to any scheme. It's about discipline.
Speaking of discipline, we have to talk about the Steve Spurrier era at South Carolina. That is arguably the peak of his Power 5 visibility.
Without a doubt. From 2012 to 2015, Sands was in the engine room of those back-to-back 11-win seasons. He was coaching Marcus Lattimore and Mike Davis. These were NFL-caliber talents. But what's interesting is that he wasn't just managing talent. He was refining it. Lattimore was already a beast, but Sands helped sharpen that vision. And let's not overlook his recruiting chops during that time.
Oh, for sure. He signed 5 ESPN Top 300 prospects. That's not easy to do at South Carolina when you're competing against Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson right next door. It shows he could sell a vision. But I want to pivot to something that happened later in his career, specifically at UTSA, because it contradicts the old school fullback stereotype.
You mean the player safety aspect?
Exactly. You'd expect a guy who ran the ball 700 times into the teeth of a defense to be a rub some dirt on it kind of coach. But at UTSA, he became a huge advocate for non contact practices and using that game breaker protective headgear.
It's that analytical mind again. He looked at the data. He realized that to win games in November, your running backs need to be able to walk in September. He realized you can teach the geometry of the run, the steps, the reads, the cuts without the collision. It's actually a very progressive approach. He's using technology and data to preserve the asset, which is the player's health.
It's smart asset management. It's the computer science major realizing that crashing the hard drive every day isn't the best way to process data.
Laughs. That is a fantastic analogy. And it served him well as he moved into higher leadership roles. When he was at Catawba College recently, he was calling the plays as offensive coordinator and eventually served as interim head coach. And get this, his punting unit led the entire country in net average.
Special teams, the hidden yardage. Of course, the guy who hates negative plays would be obsessed with field position.
It's all connected. It's all about efficiency. Whether it's a punt, a run, or a recruiting pitch, Sands is looking for the most efficient path to the objective.
Before we wrap up, though, I have to bring up the Vince Young moment. It's probably the only time Sands has gone viral on social media, and it wasn't for coaching.
Oh man, that was in 2024. A reporter is doing live interviews. She sees this tall, athletic African-American man, and she assumes it's legendary quarterback Vince Young. She starts asking him questions as if he's Vince.
And most people would have made it awkward or maybe gotten offended. Do you know who I am? Kind of ego.
Not Sands. He just smiled, waited for a pause, and gently said, "I'm Everette Sands, from the Citadel. No ego, no anger, just humility." And honestly, that clip tells you more about his character than any win-loss record could. It showed a man who is completely comfortable in his own skin. He doesn't need to be Vince Young. He's the guy who never lost a yard. That's enough.
That is a rare quality in high-level college football where egos usually run rampant. So now he's back at Coastal Carolina. He's got the NFL internships under his belt, Panthers, Seahawks, Packers. He's got the administrative experience from being assistant head coach at the Citadel. What does this addition mean for the Chanticleers?
I think it signals a shift toward professional-grade consistency. Coastal has always been an exciting, flashy program with that teal turf and the unique offense. But bringing in Sands tells me they want to tighten the screws. They want to eliminate the negative plays. They want that geometry in their backfield.
It's the perfect marriage of local legacy and elite methodology. It's not just a feel-good story about a guy coming home to Conway. It's a strategic acquisition.
Exactly. He's not just a position coach. He's a former interim head coach, a recruiting coordinator, an academic advisor, and a mathematician. He brings a level of gravitas to that staff that is hard to quantify.
Well, if his coaching career is anything like his playing career, we know one thing for sure. Coastal Carolina isn't going to be moving backward anytime soon.
Laughs. Statistically speaking, it's impossible.
We will be watching closely to see how that backfield evolves this season. That is all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for listening to the Run the Hammer podcast.
See you next time. Keep your eyes on the stats.